come on in and take a seat, take a virtual seat, whether you're on the couch or in the car, in the kitchen cooking dinner. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Welcome. This is essentially the kickoff event for the 54th NAACP Image Awards. My name is Ray Quasi Nelson, and I'm your social media messenger for the 54th NAACP Image Awards. And we'd like to thank you all for taking the time out your day to join us for this special event kickoff. We're going to have a lot of information flowing in this room tonight. So we're going to be giving the insight on the history of the NAACP Image Awards, the evolution of the show, new categories, submissions, eligibility, and so much more. And you'll hear tonight from an amazing panel of NAACP Image Awards and the people that make it happen behind the scenes. So we'll get into introducing them very shortly, our amazing panel. Just so you all know, at the end of the panel discussion, we're going to open up the floor for all our guests and have a little Q&A session. So please be on the lookout for that. When it's time, we'll ask you all to use the raise your hand feature, and we'll select you, and you will be able to be brought to the floor to ask your question. Now, did we get kicked out?
No, we're still here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My screen went blank. See, this whole virtual thing, we're still getting used to it. We got to get back into virtual. Sorry. So yeah, as I said, we'll use a Q&A, the raise your hand feature for Q&A. So please get your questions ready, and we ask that you keep them, keep it short. As we used to say in the fraternity meetings, be brief, brother, be brief, or be brief, sister, be brief, whatever works for you. So just keep it brief. So yeah, we'll be sure to try to get to everyone who has a question. Okay. So before we jump into our conversation, I'm going to introduce our amazing panel for tonight. First up, we have the man himself, none other than Mr. Derek Johnson, the president and CEO of the NAACP. Y'all, give a little virtual hand clap for Mr. President Derek Johnson. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Next, we'll be hearing from Karen Boykin-Towns, the chair of the Image Awards Committee. I'm gonna make some noise for the lovely Karen Boykin-Towns. Next, we'll be hearing from Cal Bowser, the president of the NAACP Hollywood Bureau. So Cal, you'll make some noise for Cal. Cal, yes. And then we have none other than Robin Harrison, the vice president of the NAACP Hollywood Bureau. So she'll be talking, giving you guys some information as well. And lastly, we'll hear from Quentin Sims, who's over submissions program manager at the NAACP Hollywood Bureau. Okay, so without further ado, folks, we're going to hop right into it. Let's kick it off, if you don't mind, with let's see, President Johnson. Do you want to start us off? Give us a quick intro.
Sure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Image Awards is a signature event of NAACP. It is what we have put a flagpole in to tell the entertainment industry the diversity in the industry is important, both in front of the screen and behind the cameras. And so as we navigate in this moment, the 54th Annual Image Awards, I am proud to have great team members who have actually nourished this event and grown it to be what it is today. Some of the vision of Robin Harris, who had big concept about expanding categories, and finally, once she was able to do it, we have expanded tremendously. The addition of Kyle Bowser, a veteran in the industry who understand both as an executive and also as a creative the importance of content, and all of the staff they lead, as well as our board member Karen Boykin-Towns, who served as chair of the Image Awards Committee, as also the vice chair of the board. We are excited about this year's show. We are excited about our Hollywood office, and we are excited that you are here to join us this evening for this kickoff event for the 54th Annual Image Awards show.
Thank you so much, President Johnson. All right, we're going right into it. Ms. Boykin-Towns, can you give us a little history lesson, if you will, and then talk about the significance of the NAACP Image Awards and a little bit about the history of it?
Yeah. Thank you and welcome back, Ray. We are thrilled to have you back as our social media manager.
Thank you.
But it's really great. Hard to believe we're back at it for the 54th show. But I think it's just important for us to know that, you know, the NAACP has been addressing issues of how Blacks are depicted dating back to 1915. And we've heard a lot of times the president talk about the release of Birth of a Nation and the role that the NAACP played fighting to ban that film due to its offensive depiction of African Americans. But just last week here in New York City, where I am, Lena Horne was honored by having a Broadway theater named after her, the only Black woman to have that distinction. And it's important because during that ceremony, they talked about how during World War II, the NAACP fought on behalf of her and other Black actors to coerce Hollywood to depict us in films as normal human beings and show us as an integral part of life here in the US and around the world. But it was in 1967 when the Image Awards was first organized, and it was one of the only places at the time where Blacks, activists, and creators could be celebrated for their contributions. And so today, you know, we are still here, we're still important because, quite frankly, we are looked to help uplift those in our community who excel at their craft while promoting positive images. And so we are recognized as the preeminent show from an African-American point of view. And if that wasn't enough, because of the breadth that we have, we, you know, pay tribute to Black excellence of the past, but also highlight our creatives and cultural progress as we go forward. And so, you know, the Image Awards continues to move forward. And, you know, I'm honored to work with an amazing team, you know, in doing so.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins Towns. And, you know, you talked about, you know, the history and how we continue to move forward. So with moving forward usually every year, there's always something new added, a new category. Over the last couple of years, we've been adding a few new categories to the Image Awards. So Kyle, talk about a few of the new categories, and it's also a highlight year. You know, we're celebrating 20 years for the Hollywood Bureau as well. So let's speak a little bit on that, what we can expect this year from the Image Awards.
Absolutely. As the vice chair has pointed out, the NAACP has always been focused on Hollywood as an area of advocacy. We understand the relationship between the way Hollywood influences hearts and minds with images and messages, and how that ultimately leads to public policy. So we've always been in this fight. But yes, 20 years ago, the association decided that our commitment to this space was so keen that we should actually have an office dedicated to doing this work. And so 20 years ago, the Hollywood Bureau was established. 17 years ago, my colleague Robin Harrison joined that staff, and she has been a consistent stalwart of the Hollywood Bureau ever since. And the work that we do could not have been done without her commitment, her personal commitment. With respect to the new categories, we decided this year, in addition to paying tribute to the marquee names that everybody knows and sees on the screen, that it was time that we also pay respect to the craftspeople who help position those more popular faces and names so that they could get the accolades that they get. And so we're starting with 3 categories to start. In years to come, I'm sure we'll add even more. But for this coming year, we're going to celebrate the outstanding costume design in TV and film. We're going to also recognize outstanding makeup in TV and film, and also outstanding hairstyling. So these are people who have been working in the trenches since the industry has begun, not always being recognized. And certainly African Americans and other people who've been marginalized in this industry deserve to be recognized and saluted. So we're going to do that at the Image Awards.
Love that. Yes, it's about, giving everyone their flowers. And like you said, it's the people that are behind the scenes that are really making the shows go on. So it's amazing that we're taking the time out to honor them this year. So
Right.
everybody, y'all make sure y'all listen. If you fall in any of those categories, submissions are still open until the 18th, I believe November 18th. So go ahead, go to the NAACP Image Awards website and make sure you submit for your work and tell a friend to do the same. So President Johnson, let's get back to you. We've been talking about the future of the Image Awards and evolution. Talk a little bit about the Image Awards branding and what are some things that we can expect from the future and how the NAACP is looking to continue to push the envelope in that regard.
Well, our goal is to move beyond a one-time show once a year. But that's an old model. Our goal is looking at how can we have a year-round engagement around both the content of the actual show and the build-up to the show. Because of all the categories, we touch pretty much all facets of entertainment, from the literary competition all the way across to feature films and television. And as a result of the industry itself has evolved, where major studios would drive the conversation, everyone foresee that it would be the digital companies driving the future of entertainment. And so for the NAACP, we must engage in that space as aggressively as possible around entertainment, as we have already engaged in that space as it relates to public policy. And so when you bring those two things together and you look at year-round engagement, I think the Image Awards and the branding of the NAACP, we're going to evolve with time and actually provide much more in terms of what we do beyond just a one-night show.
Love to hear that. Anybody want to add to that? Any of the committee? Nope.
You said it all.
Well, the one thing I would just add is that, certainly the live show is wonderful, it's amazing, but it only has about 8 categories that's in it. We have 85 categories. And so, making sure that we are able to not just, recognize those individuals, but really expand, as the president said, beyond just that one show, is something that, it's really great to see how we're coming back to that and really looking forward with, as Kyle said, potentially even newer categories. Last year, we started the podcast and social media, and to kind of move into some of the behind the scenes crafts people. It's just an exciting time, and really appreciate the support of everyone and watching and voting and submitting and all of that.
Absolutely. And like you said, thank you for everybody, because, without, our viewers, we're nothing. So continue to engage with us. Make sure you're, always following us on all social media platforms to stay, abreast of all the new things that we're working on and everything around the 54th NAACP Image Awards. So we're here to talk about submissions and guidelines. So let's get into that a little bit. We'll hear from Robin Harrison, Quinn Sims, and Ariana Drummond, who work on the submissions team. So for those that don't know, let's get into some of the basics. When do submissions typically start and end? I think we're approaching the deadline in about a week with the submissions deadline. So let's talk about that a little bit, just to give the people some information.
Yeah, so we actually started the submissions process in August, and they are set to end next Friday on the 18th. And like Chairman Boykintown said, we have 85 categories, and since we have 85 categories, it's a extensive process in terms of the time that we allow for people to submit and go through that process, working with the different networks and studios and labels and the literature publishers, just really going through and evaluating what work has been come out this year and what falls into the process as eligible, in order to really make sure that, to everyone's point on this panel, is the work of our people is represented accordingly and evaluated accordingly.
And I want to just step back a little bit from that. So I'm doing double duty. So people are asking questions. And so I'm answering those. And one of the main questions was, what is the eligibility period? So it's January 1st through December 31st of that calendar year. We have several categories. We have television plus streaming, film, which is motion picture, recording, podcast, and literature. And again, we've added these 3 new categories. So within the television plus streaming, we added streaming to television probably about 3 years ago, understanding the direction and the power of streaming services. So that expanded that category. Of the 85 categories that we have, they are all competitive, but we also have several special awards. We have a President's Award, a Chairman's Award, Hall of Fame, Social Justice Impact Award, Social Media Personality Award, and our Entertainer of the Year Award. And so in addition to those 85, we probably have anywhere between 5 to 10 special awards that are presented. And not each year we're able to give those special awards out, but what is consistent is the President's, the Chairman, and the Social Justice Impact Award. And 3 years ago, to really honor the work of our NAACP members, we added the Activist of the Year and the Youth Activist of the Year. And that's a way for us to lift up the work of our members throughout the year. And they are honored at the awards dinner the night before the live show, but are mentioned in the live show.
And can we speak on some of those eligibility requirements just across the board from a general perspective for those that may not know?
So Quentin, and I've been getting just some questions here about the new categories. An individual wants to know, do they have to submit a photo or a video? And my answer was, you can submit both. And they came back with, is it a requirement to submit one or the other? So I want to definitely answer that question. So can you address that question?
Yeah, so to answer that specific question, the video, just to chime into that, is really in a 2 form. You can, submit a reel that is reflective of the work in that specific project, but the television show or the film that is being submitted is also going to do justice in reflecting the evaluation for that project as well, because then we're seeing the true intended movement or purpose of that costume, or you're seeing the makeup in action of that character that is being done, or how the hair is truly being displayed as we are seeing it on TV at home or in the theater. So all of the picture is only telling a portion of the story, so that's why it's being evaluated in both forms.
Thank you for that, Quinn. If there's not,
There are great questions in the chat. Wow.
Yeah, there are. I'm trying to keep up with them.
yeah, feel free, Robin, to let me know if there's any other questions that you want to hit.
Okay.
Now, but we can, if Ariana, if you would like to talk a little bit about the FYC campaign and just some details about that. How do people go about campaigning once they do submit?
Yeah, of course. So pleasure to meet everybody. So for those of you guys who are not aware or don't know what the meaning of FYC, basically it stands for your consideration. So specifically, it's consideration for award or nomination. And FYCs can be considered campaigns or advertisements, and they're typically placed with the purpose of, optimizing and raising awareness about your specific project or title. Some of you guys may ask, well, what's the importance of an FYC, or can it really help my, can it really help me, get a nomination? And I say that it absolutely will. We have a diverse group of voting members, so it's safe to assume that, just because maybe you're familiar with a specific project, it doesn't mean that, somebody else on the voting committee would be familiar with that project as well. So I think it's important to raise awareness and get your project out there, not just for well-known titles, but also for, again, something as simple as, things that people may not know about. So as specifically ads and campaigns can be funneled through a series of options. We have email blast options. We have sending an email blast with a video message. We have placing banners or advertisements on our website. We also have placing advertisements on our social media pages. Then we have the option to schedule a screening, and it's not specifically for just films, but it's also for like TV series. You know, we've also done events in the past before, and then also we've done clips and conversations where, you know, we're playing a clip of that specific show or film, and then we're having a conversation about it. So really impactful ways that you can get your film, series, title, project, whatever it is out there. We've also done stuff with, you know, music and book signing. So there's a series of, you know, out of the box things that we can do to raise awareness about your project. And then also, I just want to know that, you know, right now it is open, but I will say that availability is limited. FYCs can be placed now up into the end of voting, or when voting closes specifically. And then for anybody interested in additional pricing or in any additional information, that can be found on the website. And then they can also email me specifically. But yeah, happy to help where I can. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Hopefully that helps.
So I want to jump in, Ray, and talk about the nominating committee, so that process, what Ariana was referring to. So out of the 85 categories that are all competitive, we have about 400 to 500 nominating committee members that cover those different categories. We have what we call general, which is television and film. We have specialty, which are individuals who would read the literary books. And then we have guilds. And so guilds are the directing categories and the writing categories. And each of those have about 4. The literary category, there are 8. And if you were on the literary category, you are required to read all of the books that are submitted, and you judge them based on a score of 1 to 10. If you were on the general, you would select your top 5 projects, and then the total becomes the 5 nominees that go to the general public to vote. And so submissions ends or closes on the 18th. We have about 2.5 weeks where we vet, verify, and then it is actually certified by our outside auditor. They have a sample ballot. They review and check all of the submissions that come in, and then we provide that ballot to the nominating committee, and that voting will start on December the 12th. And it is all digital, it's all online. It is very secure. We use one of the state-of-the-art online systems. It's a company that does most of the award shows, and we've been using them for several years, and very, very happy with their service, but it's very secure. They have relationships with the industry, so projects that are submitted can be viewed online through their portal. If you are submitting, we encourage you, as Ariana mentioned, to upload your projects so that the committee really has all of the information so that they can judge accordingly. And this year, we have actually reduced the size of our committees, our specialty committees, so that there's time for all the committee to have time to review all of the projects. So we are sensitive that people spend their time and their work and their dedication to wanting to be involved and really to get that nomination. And so we hear you, and we've made it a little easier for our committee to really have the time to review all the projects that have been submitted. All right, so I'm going to just go back and see some other questions, because
let's open up the floor for some questions.
There's a lot here. So I'm going to read them, and then we can just kind of answer.
I want to actually chime in. So there was one question that asked about the clarification. Did all the deadlines close do all of the categories close submissions on the 18th? And the only exception to that, to Robin's point, is the literary category. So we closed the literary categories a little earlier. They actually closed this past Friday on the 4th, because we want to give the readers that are a part of this committee ample time to review all of the projects. So those specific categories, we do close a little bit earlier in order to give that time needed to give the authors fair chance at their work being reviewed and the committee time to evaluate everything accordingly.
Yeah. And I just think it's important, so many times the president and I, and a lot of you probably have people come up and say, well, why wasn't I considered for an Image Award? And it's sort of like lotto, you got to be in it to win it. And we just don't pick, things to go and you got to submit. And so I just think that this sort of forum is so important for demystifying sort of how the process works. And I think another thing that needs to be demystified is who votes, and it's the general public. But even if you Google Image Awards, it says that it's only NAACP members who vote, and that's not the case. And so everyone can vote. It's a pretty democratic process, so to speak.
And everyone can submit, essentially, anybody big or small. You have everybody has the freedom and the power to submit. So definitely encourage, it's a great platform to even just get your work out there in front of some other people. Look at it as a networking tool, if anything. You just never know what happens. So definitely encourage everybody to go to the website, get your information, and submit. Any questions, Robin, that you have?
Yeah, we have several. So Dr. Trotman Scott wants to know, can the ceremony for the non-televised ceremony be streamed? Chairman Boykin-Towns, would you like to take that question?
Well, that's a great question. And that dinner has been one in the past that would go for several hours because we tried to do all the work. This year, we are looking to have it as a production, sort of like a better version of the Golden Globes in terms of its sort of layout. And with that, we are working really hard to try and find a service that would be able to air it so that it can be viewed by everyone. So we're working really, really hard to try and bring that as a televised or streamed, because it's going to be as good as live show.
But we do, because we do have the 85 categories, we do have virtual shows leading up to the non-televised awards dinner as well as the live show. So you can tune in the Monday of Image Award week beginning February the 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. And we'll probably have the shows, those virtual shows are about 30 to 45 minutes. All right, let's see. Thanks for sharing. Does the podcast category include scripted episodic series? Quentin, that's for you.
It does not. However, as we've been, as Chair Boykin-Towns mentioned earlier, these were new categories that we added last year, and we did it in a way to start the category, accepting submissions in that regard. So it is something that we are continually evaluating and looking at. So it is something that we could potentially consider adding in the future.
All right, next question. I am curious to know, normally, how many short films compete in the outstanding short film category? That's for you, Quentin.
That's a good question. Ultimately, we end up with the 5 nominees, but there are, a slew of submissions that really come in. It's just depending upon the work that is eligible in that calendar year in order to really determine the amount of submissions. So it could vary, it could be 50, it could be 100. It's determined on who submits what projects. So it's completely up to those individuals, those networks, those studios to determine that number.
And Quentin, wouldn't you say in all the categories, the submissions have been increasing year after year?
I would say that, yes. It's been really good, working with our team of coordinators. There's not just myself, there's not just Robin, but there's a team behind us that are really out here having the conversations, doing the research, and really drumming up projects that are well represented of what NAACP stands for, in order to see that, you know, the networks and the studios and even the individuals that are working on the project themselves are given a chance and evaluated. So yes, it has, you know, increased significantly over the last several years in order to determine where we are today.
Huge shout out to the team.
Yeah.
Huge shout out.
This is an interesting question, I think, between Kyle and President Johnson. How will you utilize artificial intelligence in the future of the Image Awards? And I know you guys had some kind of meeting in Silicon Valley. I don't know if that plays into this, but.
Wow. President Johnson, you want to take that one?
You got it. Go ahead.
I was afraid you were going to say that. Artificial intelligence in the Image Awards. That's a really good question. I don't know that we've really thought about artificial intelligence in the Image Awards. I wouldn't want to give you an answer that hadn't been thought about. So, but thank you for planting the seed. That's something for us to consider.
We've talked about AR and the virtual journey. We have not talked about artificial intelligence, which is a different step in the direction.
Okay.
Thanks for the question.
How are nominees determined? Who wants to take that question? We kind of touched on it already with the nominating, the process, the FYC process. So depending on the category, it's either the top 5 by the general committee, or if it's a specialty or subcommittee, it's they're rated 1 through 10. And then again, the top 5 become the nominees. What visual arts became the category of the future? Visual arts become, well, I'm looking through the questions. You guys can keep volunteering.
I have a question. Some people may be curious about, even talking about, somebody said, why is there a submission fee, or what is the submission fee associated with for the Image Awards?
I'll take that. So the submission fee is actually a processing charge or a processing fee that really essentially helps us to get to this point to, you know, have our nominees. For example, you know, it's dealing with the platform that we utilize that allows us to collect the data and allows our committees to vote, that really gets us to this endpoint of determining the nominees. So it's what handles all of the submissions, and then where people vote to determine what the nominees are.
And all the award shows have submission fees, and we are probably one of the cheapest.
There's a
More reasonable.
there's a question that I think I saw in here that I want to answer, but I think the question actually leads to a larger point. The question is whether or not self-published books can be submitted in the literary categories. The answer to that question is absolutely yes. But I think the reason that we're as open to self-published books as we are traces back to the reason we have the Image Awards in the first place. The Image Awards exists because for too long, African Americans and other marginalized people weren't being recognized for their achievements. And so we created a platform to just do that. And now we're coming up on 54 years of doing that. Similarly, it is hard to get a book published. There's been consolidation in that industry. There's far fewer publishing houses now, and they're very, very particular about who they let pass the gate. And so a lot of people have now gravitated towards self-publishing as a way of, you know, at least finding a way to express themselves and share their expressions however they can, by putting it on Amazon or selling out the back of their car. And we want to be as open to those folks as we are to any other creative endeavor. So yes, if you're a self-published author, please submit your books for our consideration.
Thank you, Kyle. Any more questions that you see on your side, Robin, that you want to?
I'm trying to answer some of them and just respond. We've gotten a couple of questions about people who are interested in volunteering. So, and one question was, if I'm a member, can I volunteer? You can send an email to imagevolunteer@gmail.com. We're actually starting our planning of the events as well as starting to recruit for volunteers. So especially if you're here locally in Los Angeles, we need help and happy to entertain and hopefully you can participate. Our volunteer coordinator, her name is Davina Walker. She's been doing it for several years and she's fabulous. And again, that's imagevolunteer@gmail.com. Will the platform be clear for voting this year? Oh, that's interesting. There's no category for, so here's a question. Notice there is no category for radio, but only for podcasts. Can a broadcast category be added? There.
I think that, certainly radio is a medium for which we continue to use within our community. And I think that that's something that, as we take notes, something to note for future categories. We might have to have 2 nights of a show.
It's gonna be a long show.
Here's an interesting question, I think, between Kyle and the chairman. You guys can address this one. What if you are an indie filmmaker and cannot afford to promote your film with buying ads or screenings to make folks aware of it? Will we still get a fair shake?
That is a great question. And I was wondering about that myself in the sense of, not everyone can do a FYC campaign. And so social media, I think, has done an amazing job of democratizing everything. And so I think that there's definitely a fair shot, particularly if you are in community and are able to share your, you see some of the celebs go on and say, hey, I'm up for Image Awards, please vote for me. And, getting friends and family to do that, to even be able to, get local attention. And there are ways, and I think that certainly authentic work that connects, there is always a place for that. And it's a matter of using the platforms that exist to help get the information out. And so I would say, don't let the imp, sometimes it's in our head, keep us from doing. If you have work and you are passionate about it and you believe it is something that deserves to be considered, go for it.
100%.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Some music categories, open to unknown, and how do you apply? Oh, interesting. Sorry. If you have friends that have a film or music projects outside of the US, can they submit? Quentin, you want to take that one?
We do have an international motion picture category. So absolutely, as long as it does fall within this eligibility period and those guidelines.
And recording international music too.
Yeah.
Yes, and international music. Sorry, I did miss that.
Yeah.
Chairman, I have a question for you. What's the submission process for Social Justice Impact Award and President's Award?
I'll take the President's Award first. The process is him. In essence, the Chairman's Award and the President's Award are ones that really fall within the realm of, their decision. And so I think we have had some really outstanding awardees from them, and I applaud their choices. They are, and they don't really, we're anxiously awaiting some of the considerations for the 54th show awardees, but or honorees. And so stay tuned. And as it relates to social justice impact, and that's one that's really near and dear to my heart, that award is determined by our Image Award committee. And I think we must have like 20 plus people on the committee, all selected by our chairman of the board, Leon W. Russell. And so we have the honor of, identifying that one person who is national in scope and who has, in our opinion, really sort of been out there, working on behalf of our community. We have our November committee meeting next week, where we will begin the process of and it goes in phases. So we'll have the first tranche of people for consideration that we all had to submit, I think, 6 names. And so we'll go through those and we'll vote and we'll whittle it down. And, by January, we should have one person selected. And it's a really important process. And we started this award after the murder of George Floyd, and we were our first social justice impact awardee was none other than Stacey Abrams for the outstanding work that she has done and had done. And then this past year was Nicole Hannah Jones of the 1619 Project. And so stay tuned for the 54th show's social justice impact winner.
So we have a couple people who have raised their hands, and I'm going to allow them to talk. So J. Vicky Richard. Let's see. J. Vicky.
I'm sorry. You know what? My hand happened to hit that button. So, hi, Miss Karen. I missed you in Michigan.
Well,
Okay,
was it Battle Creek or Grand Rapids?
Well, it was Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
I was in Kalamazoo for theirs at the same time.
Listen, we can't be everywhere. So good. Thank you for joining tonight, though.
Yes. But a question, I didn't get that volunteer information, please.
Oh, you want to send an email to imagevolunteer@gmail.com.
At Gmail.
Can we drop it in the chat?
Yes.
Oh, we don't have.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, we could drop it in.
Okay, we will do that.
Okay, I'll lower my hand.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
So next we have Sheila Eldridge. Sheila?
Yes, thank you.
Wait. Is this the Sheila Eldridge?
Yes, Kyle Bowser, how are you?
Well, how are you?
Okay. I said,
Great.
oh, it's been a blast. That's a blast from the past. Okay.
Right?
It's always a family reunion. I love it.
Okay.
In it,
Thank
though?
you all. Thank you all for this. It's been extremely helpful. I submitted last year for my first Image Award and we won. So this is very helpful. But that was my question in reference to the radio, because it's just, I've been in this business for 20 something years and I'm just shocked that radio and nationally syndicated and local radio and the impact that we have on the community and the work that stations have done is not a category that has been included. So I would just implore you to please next year think about including radio, which is really, podcast is an extension of the work that radio has done over the years.
Well, first of all, we're not gonna start lying on here talking about you've been in the business for 20 years.
Okay, so don't do that to me in front of everybody, okay?
That's one. Number two, President Johnson did point out that we are looking for ways to extend the Image Awards brand throughout the calendar year. We can't just, drop our entire catalog of opportunity on one night in February. And so we're looking at ways in which we can sort of dissect the Image Awards into a variety of events, and maybe radio becomes a specific event that we focus on, not just a category.
I think that's a great idea. That's a great.
Listen, don't hold us to this because I'm literally talking off the top of my head. But thank you for bringing that, to the fore, because that's something we should definitely think about doing. As the vice chair pointed out, radio remains a very, very vital technology, specifically in our community.
Yes.
As you know, Sheila, we came up in a time when that was the drum beat. So
Yes.
we
Right.
have to continue to support radio as an industry.
Well, thank you. That was my question. So that was it.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Ms. Eldridge.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eldridge.
There's a few questions here about talent submissions and press. So for general questions that we're not addressing specific to the submissions process, so there's questions about attending the events, there's questions about submitting talent, there's questions about being able to submit credentials and press. You can send an email to imageawards@naacpnet.org. Quentin, can you drop that in the chat so people can grab it? It's our general email address that we will respond to with additional questions. You can also visit our website at naacpimageawards.net. It's currently set for the for the submissions process, but there is the link, I think the website for the Image Awards email address is there. So for any questions that we are not answering tonight, please feel free to email imageawards@naacp.net. I am going to bring on another person, Cortez Mack. Cortez Mack.
Greetings, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I appreciate this opportunity. I think tonight is just a privilege, especially as an indie filmmaker. My question is that I know I may have missed the submission because I'm still in film production, but I have a question to see if possibly that my wife and I could attend the awards just to be around this great atmosphere of great people as a form of aspiration to me as a filmmaker.
Chairman.
Did you say to attend the show?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would say this. I am loving the fact that, there's so much interest around this show. And while this is about submission, at the end of the day, there's so much that goes into it. And what I would say is, if you could send an email. Where are you based? Where do you live?
Chicago.
You live in Chicago. Why don't you send an email to send a note to the general email address, and let's see what we can do.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good luck in production.
Next we have A. Bush.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you so much. My name is Angel Bush, and I'm the founder of Black Women in Artificial Intelligence. And my question is, will visual arts become a category in the future, or is it a category already? And when I'm talking about visual arts, I'm also thinking of NFTs, which can certainly reflect our culture.
Wow. Currently, it's not. Currently, it is not. But this is why it is so great when we sort of get out of our little bubble and, have conversations, because some of the things that we've heard gives us a lot to take back to the committee to consider. And it only enriches our show and makes us even more relevant to some of the things that are going on. Were you the one that asked the artificial intelligence question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And if you could put your information in the chat, or if you could send your information to that email address, because as we are thinking about artificial intelligence and that sort of thing, you may be a resource for us.
Awesome.
if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, no, I don't mind at all. Which email? There are several in the Q&A section. I want to make sure I send it to the correct one.
The general one. So that would be Image Awards at naacpnet.org.
I will certainly do that. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
If I can, I'd like to piggyback on that. Just to point out that while there's glitz and there's glamour and there's a red carpet and there's celebrities and paparazzi and all of that, please understand that the Image Awards was created to be an extension of the advocacy work that the NAACP has always done. It is about arts and entertainment, but we use that platform to also address the issues that are germane to our community. And so when you ask, have you all considered doing X, Y, or Z? And if our answer is insufficient, understand that that's an opportunity for you to become a part of the NAACP, its thinking, its philosophies, and you can add your voice to our mix. So as much as this is about the Image Awards, it's also about the larger purpose of the association and getting as many of us from our community involved in the activity.
Kyle, that's an important point you make. And for years, we would hear about the great work that our members are doing out in the field and in their communities. And while we lift up, the artists in the various areas of film, television, theater, music, and literature, it was always like, but what about our folks? And so to have, I think it's now 3 years ago, have figured out a way to kind of have a process where that adult and that young person who are killing it in their communities, being advocates, being leaders, helping to address the issues and being able to lift just a regular activist, NAACP activist, during the glitz and glam of Image Awards is like really heartfelt, and it is something that has really resonated with our folks because they too, deserve recognition in this sort of way. And so really excited as they are going through the process of submitting for consideration as well.
Yep.
So here's a question, I think, between Kyle and the vice chair, and it's kind of goes with what we're talking about. It's an anonymous attendee. They said, I attended the national convention and thought the short film competition highlight was fascinating. Will the short film competition held during the national convention have a place with the show?
Well, if you were in attendance at the convention, you perhaps.
It got ruckus. It was just mayhem.
So our president and CEO turned into Oprah Winfrey for a moment and said, you get to go to LA and you get to go to LA and you get to. Well, we intended to anoint one winner. The reaction from the audience was so overwhelming that the president said, you know what, everybody deserves to win. And so part of the reward was those filmmakers are going to be flown to Los Angeles and they'll stay here for a few days. And in addition to attending the Image Awards, we are going to screen their films as part of our lead up activities to the Image Awards. And we're going to schedule some meetings for them to meet industry leaders so they can hopefully start to advance their own careers. So yes, we intend to tie what you saw happen in Atlantic City at the convention to what's going to happen in February at the Image Awards.
It is so exciting and such great projects that they did, and to be able to have each of them come and have this opportunity is really a blessing. So we are so excited for them.
All right, I'm gonna ask one more question from the chat and then we'll go back to admitting some folks. But Vice Chair, this one is for you. How do you become a member of the organization in general?
I am so glad you asked that question, and we can put it in the chat, where membership is truly the lifeblood of this organization. And we've been around for 113 years, and it is only because of volunteers like you and like each of us who, give our time, talent, and treasure to the NAACP. A membership can be as low as $30 to join into your local branch in your community. And, and for those of us who, want to be life members, it's $75, a year towards that. And when people want to talk about the NAACP, whether how great it is or how it may be trash, we are only as good as we are in our local communities and the people who are in the community doing the work. And so while we have a national organization for which we have our amazing president, Derek Johnson, and national staff who are on the line, at the end of the day, our work, our power is really by the 2,200 units that are around this country in 47 states. And so if we could drop in the link for membership, that would be great. And certainly we need you. We saw the outcome of the midterm elections, and it didn't go all our way, but at the same time, we did make some headway, but we must be in it, and we have the power. We have to use the power, and our members, our volunteers are the power. So thank you for that question. You allowed me to get on my soapbox, and we'll drop the link into the chat.
All right, next I'm going to bring Pastor Calhoun. He has a question.
Hey guys, this is Pastor Jay from Anointed Radio here in Las Vegas. And I had a quick question about the podcast category. Will there ever be a category for like religious, spiritual category? Because I know there's like self-help or different ones, but will there be one that's tailored for the religious podcast that's out, or spiritual ones?
I just want to ask the question. I guess this is not going to be an answer because it's another question, but I'm curious, Pastor, how you might recommend we delineate or differentiate between one submission to the next. Let's just assume for the moment that everyone is offering content that uplifts the spirit. Are we to judge their propensity, what would you suggest we do to differentiate between one submission to the next?
The reason why I brought that up is because I've seen in different categories, when you expound it, you kind of, with it just saying kind of general, it kind of gets flooded with all kind of just general submissions of something that could seem like it, or someone that is tailored to spirituality or religion. So that's where I was kind of putting that out there, because I know when you could kind of say self-help, it could go into any type of way. And I'm looking at submission, like I might submit Anointed Radio, and then it's just probably flooded with all kind of different ones. And I'm just kind of saying for the narrow down for that category. That was kind of what the suggestion was, because I've seen it in a lot of other awards where they've narrowed it down a little more than just kind of just saying self-help. And I think that's the best category. I'm just saying that based on what I looked on the website.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we know that media has become critically important in the spiritual space, and even in the religious space. And to some extent, media is somewhat dependent on that kind of content to attract, audiences. So we should probably consider it, but I think we're going to need some direction as to how to distinguish one submission to the next. I don't think we want to get into a contest as to who's the best preacher. So we've got to figure out what is going to be the criteria for evaluation.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor.
Quentin, here's one for you. Can you submit, can you submit for more than one category?
Yes, as long as you are eligible for those categories, you can submit. As long as there are certain categories that you cannot submit if you previously submitted in previous years. For example, best new artist in our recording categories. If you were considered for that last year, then you would not be eligible to submit for that again. But as long as you fall within those eligibility guidelines, yes, you can submit for more than one category.
Can you speak to the submission guidelines? We haven't referenced that, so I think a lot of our answers are in that book and where they can get it.
Yes, so if you all visit NAACPImageAwards.net, there is a wonderful book of our guidelines for submissions that lists things, that answer questions like that let you know all 85 of our categories, what the eligibility requirements are for each one, starting with, the calendar year to how you, what product you need to submit, whether it's, a headshot and your different screeners. Seeing some questions that I've been answering in the chat regarding if you need to submit one episode versus the entire series. So all of that information you can find in those submissions guidelines.
If anybody that's in the attendees that have their hands up that have already spoken, could you lower your hand? Unless you have another question, then I can call on you again. Here's an interesting question, and I think Vice Chair, this might be good for you to answer. I love the passionate pink and sunburst tangerine colors. Is there a theme for the 54th NAACP Image Awards?
So thank you for recognizing our new sort of, what do we call it, Robin? Our new sort of
key art.
Yeah, key art. It is different from what we've done before, but we are thrilled with it because it, I think, evokes definitely, just the flavor, I think, of our culture and our community. So even though I'm a Zeta, I do love, the pink. So, I think it's really about Black excellence, continues to be sort of a feature, a theme. And then I can't read what that says, Robin, on the back, which I think you and Abba kind of came up with, which also continues to sort of flow through each year.
Well, we have to give that credit to our social media company and our event production company, 360 Total Solutions. Culture. The tagline, our culture, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our Shaq, you want to talk to that? Ms. Shaq, who is the brains behind our social media and our strategy.
Sure. So we've gone with our culture, our stories, our excellence. We thought that summed up the purpose of what we're trying to do, what we're trying to reflect, who we are as a people, and what this show is, what the NAACP represents as well. So we've been riding with it. It feels good. People are responding to it very well. So the NAACP Image Awards, our culture, our stories, our excellence.
And if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I also know I wore a suit similar to this color last year that really had the people in the frenzy. So, I'm not going to say that.
All right, I'm going to bring to the conversation Deborah Pratt. Ms. Pratt, are you there?
I am. Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing tonight?
Deborah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kyle?
Great. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
All the friends are here.
I wanted to say thank you all. I'm on the committee for feature films. Last year I did short films. It's just been a privilege to participate, to support the organization. But I was calling to ask a question in the sense that I'm on the committee for feature films, but wanted to submit a television episode that I executive produced. And I didn't know if that was conflict of interest because I was part of the selection committee. So
No, it's not a conflict of interest. You may know that almost 2 years ago, our association signed a development pact with CBS TV Studios. And we haven't put anything on the air quite yet, but we've got quite a few projects that are in active development. So we're actually pondering what's going to happen today when one of our own shows is submitted for consideration. So no, it's not a conflict for you to be a judge in one category and to submit in a different category.
Terrific. I look forward to doing it. I'm excited about the show, and we got the opportunity to do a story about our people. And Quantum Leap I'm excited. I'm excited to bring it to you guys, and I'm excited to see what the offer you're looking credible already. So thank you again for doing this, and it's good to be.
How many years has Quantum Leap been on television?
30 years.
Wow.
But this is the new show. Just came on this year, it's brand new and fresh. And I joke and say, well, frick, if Star Trek could have 9 series spin off the original, we're starting, we got a good start. But yeah, it's nice to bring it back. The audience is really diverse. The cast is incredibly diverse, and the stories will be and continue to be walking in the shoes of someone's life that you would never get the opportunity to know or understand. So I'm really.
Wow.
Well, congratulations and thank you for supporting our show.
Oh, absolutely. Forever, probably those 30 years.
And good luck with your submission.
Oh, thank you very, very much, Karen. Thank you, everybody, again.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Would any of the panel like to chime in on a few more questions before we begin to wrap up, or if there's any more tidbits they want to add?
We do have some hands up, so I do want to at least get these.
Okay.
I'm Gary Hines. Gary, I'm going to bring you in now. Gary.
Thank you. Yes, I'm here. How y'all doing?
Oh,
Great.
that's
Gary.
Blackness.
Yeah.
Hey.
On behalf of Sounds of Blackness here in Minneapolis, thank you for this wonderful seminar and for all the work that you guys do. My question just briefly is this. I'm wondering if the time of year of a music release potentially impacts chances for nomination. For example, Sounds of Blackness submission Juneteenth celebration obviously is about Juneteenth. Well, that was 6 months ago. Is that potentially not a negative in terms of the timing of it, in terms of the attention that it might receive for nomination?
No.
Can I answer that question? You want to go? You go first, Kyle. I'll respond.
Oh, that's your area. You go.
No, that's actually a great question, and I was going to answer that and say that could be a term, something that all categories, whether it's music, whether it's film, whether it's TV, that they all are going to have that. It's like what's currently buzzing or what's just recently released. So I think that's also a great tie-in to why we encourage FYCs, because then what that does is it brings your work to light, since it was a project that wasn't recently released, to really draw the attention by the committees to showcase your work and what you did, so that it is not falling by the wayside, for the lack of better words. So I think it helps with really putting it back out there and just reminding people of the impactful work that you've done earlier in the year.
And I'll add to that, because Gary, he is probably one of the submitters who does FYCs every year.
Yes.
And I think that is helpful. And there's a story, it's Stars. So Power had submitted probably 2 or 3 years and couldn't understand why they were not getting a nomination. And so Ariana had her conversation with them. And Ariana, somebody put in the chat that they did a FYC last year and that you were fabulous and they loved the experience. Although they didn't get nominated, they felt that the FYC process was just top notch because of you. But the year she had a conversation with them about FYCs for Power, they did a whole campaign. They did a customized CD. They provided the committee with the entire series. And then that year they got the first time they did it, they got the nomination. And the second time they did it, they won, I think, best drama. So it's not guaranteed and it may not happen the first year, but it's being consistent with it and promoting your works is helpful. There's been a couple of questions in the chat about the literary categories and not promoting the literary categories. So because as an author and you submit that book, the individuals on that committee are required to read your work. So there is a fee for FYCs and it's I won't say redundant, but unlike the other projects, they may or may not submit the actual show or the film. But as an author, you submit your book, they have to read it. They can't even submit any of the votes for the other books until they have read every single book, because the system is designed to not take any votes until they're required to read all the books in that category. And so they are judging your work based on your work. So an email blast or a letter or a reading doesn't necessarily impact the outcome, which is why we don't encourage FYCs for the literary category. So hopefully there were several questions, and so hopefully that answers that question.
Hey, Gary, all you got to do is put a remix of Optimistic on the project and you'll win.
My friend.
Did you come out for Jimmy and Terry's induction?
I was not able to make it that night, but and we are so proud of them. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
All right. So
good work.
Kyle, you were at the party where D Nice was DJing and Janet was right there?
D Nice and Cassidy were DJing. We had a dinner first. That was interesting. And then we went downstairs to the big party. And then 2 nights before that, there was a whole nother party. PJ was there. It was amazing.
Okay.
Wow.
That sounds
sorry.
We have a few more questions. So I'm going to bring Dr. Sheila, I think did we hear from Dr. Sheila Fraser Trotman Scott? Maybe I just read one of her questions, so I'm going to bring her up.
Hello, this is Dr. Shelley. Just a quick question. I know that the literary category has closed. Have all of the books been shipped?
Question
for me. No, we are in process of shipping the remaining books that have been submitted. So there are still a few that we are either waiting to receive from the publishers or that we are shipping out, not necessarily as we speak, but they're en route.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Stephen Davis.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Davis.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I wanted to first say, hello, Karen, how you been? Tell Daryl I said hello, and tell Ed and Gwen I said hello.
I sure will.
Okay, I wanted to find out, I know it's a simple question, but I got on a little bit late. Is YouTube videos considered streaming?
Yes and no, and it's really going to depend on the project itself. I can't answer specifically without evaluating in its entirety what you are submitting, but there are some YouTube original projects that have been submitted. Yes.
I have a show and I do a podcast and a YouTube. It's both the same show. It's a weekly show.
So a podcast. So
right.
I'm going to submit the podcast. As a matter of fact, I got my computer open right now.
So yeah, it's going to depend on if it's considered a podcast first, or if it's something that is a YouTube original. So that'll be something that our submissions team will evaluate upon submitting. So it's sounding like it may be a podcast that you also play on YouTube. So it would then, as long as it meets all the criteria, it would fall under the podcast categories.
Okay, but do you have a YouTube category? That's
Not a specific YouTube category, no.
okay, then I'll just submit it as a podcast. That would solve it right there. Anyway, thank you. Take it easy.
Thank
Bye,
you so much.
Karen.
Question.
All right, good luck with your submission.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Kathleen.
You knew the whole family.
Mhm.
Kathleen? Her mic is muted, so I'm gonna go to.
Mike is muted, Kathleen.
I'm gonna go to Stephen Davis.
Didn't we have Stephen Davis?
He just came on.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Disabled talking.
And just a reminder, if you've already been brought on for your question, to just press the hand button to lower your hand.
So Amy Malone, I'm gonna bring her up.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you again. I know everyone has said it, but thank you for all of this valuable information. I just wanted to know, one of my clients, I'm a publicist, and one of my clients I know is submitting for the feature film. And if it is accepted, what I'd like to know is, how would I be able to submit most of the key cast members to attend the event, or how would that work?
That's a great question.
So I'll take that question. So if they are nominated or just to submit talent?
So if they're not, I know what I would need to do to just submit talent, but I'm believing they are going to be nominated because it's a great film and it's winning festivals everywhere. I just wanted to know if, once that process happens, if it is nominated, is there a limited number of the cast members or the producers that can?
Yeah. So, okay. So if it is, the film is submitted and it is nominated, we allot 4 tickets for television shows or films. If it's individual, they're entitled to 2 tickets. If they are submitted in the ensemble category, then we allot 8 tickets. And that would be to each of the events as well as the live show.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's what I needed.
Thank you, Amy.
Janet Mills, I'm going to bring her up.
Greetings all, beautiful Black people.
Hey, Janet.
I'm a senior, so it's a beautiful sight to see you beautiful, intelligent people. I wrote a very long Q&A that I don't, I'm not criticizing you for passing it over, but very briefly, I always had a criticism of the Emmy Awards, Emmy Television Awards, particularly when I did not have cable and I didn't know half the shows that were nominated. And I love that your Image Award really do, I believe, your nominees represent the free network shows. And I wanted to know whether you do something proactive in allowing more free network shows to be considered. And as far as you know, what do you do differently than the Emmy Awards executives? Thank you.
What we do differently is we ask a different population to articulate their preference for artistic achievement. And so the answers that we get aren't the same as the answers that people down the street get. It's not that we have some policy that's different about which shows should be considered, but our community just has its own point of view about what's good and what's not. and those results end up being who we hand out trophies to.
Yes, I love your representation. You're doing a great job, and because almost every nominee, I'm familiar with the show, and I love that. And keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much for your support.
My pleasure.
So we were putting things in the chat, but we were only the host and the panelists could see it. So
I fixed it, Robin.
Huh? You did?
I had
Okay.
fixed it.
I
Yeah.
just did it to everyone as well. So if anybody was not able to get any information out of that, we've put the email addresses, the website, and everything that we were referring to. All right, so we have Amy Malone. Did we talk to? No.
Yes, we talked to Amy.
Okay. We talked to, so Janet Mills, then we just spoke with her, right? So I think that's
Yep, there we cleared the queue, so
Yay.
we're good.
So thank you to everyone. If there's not anything else we want to add from our panelists, all hearts and minds are clear, we'll go ahead and begin the wrap up process. Again, thank you all for the questions. Very amazing questions, which, you know, your feedback is so important to allowing us to continue to push the narrative of, you know, what we can do at the Image Awards. And, you know, just that feedback allows us to continue to grow as an organization. So thank you on behalf of all the panelists. Quentin, are there any important dates and deadlines that you want to just remind the people about? We have the emails in the chat, so you have access to all of that, but just any last reminders for the people?
Just a reminder that submissions closes on November 18th, and that you can find all those information, including the guidelines, on NAACPimageawards.net. And then, Chairman, would you like to tell everyone about the nominee announcements date?
It's in January.
Yeah.
Well, first off, stay tuned, because there should be a communication coming out real soon on the date of the live show. So don't miss that. And certainly we are very excited. We, get through the holidays in the beginning of January. We are able to kind of do the release of the nominees. And so there's a lot of work that this team will be doing over the holidays in preparation for that. But we are really excited. We are working with the producers on the show, putting together the events. It's a really exciting time. And, we just ask you to continue, as Ray say, to follow us on all of our social media platforms so you can stay abreast of developments.
Yeah. Thank you. You took my line. I don't even have anything else to say. Yeah, you said it all. Make sure you're following us. And again, as Chair Boykin Town said, we have the power, so let's use it. To all the creatives out there, you have the power. Make sure you go submit and spread the word of the amazing work that you're doing in the community and abroad. So remember, our stories, our culture, our excellence. We're super excited. This is going to be an amazing Image Awards season. Follow us on all platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You don't want to miss it, folks. We have a lot of things coming down the pipeline. And yeah, that's us. That's us. We're here.
Thank you, Ray.
Great time. Thank you so much. Thank you to the amazing panel. Great. And remember, also too, lastly, remember, go out and join your local branch. You can do it at as low as $30. So get involved, go out, do your research, and yeah, let's continue to do the work. I'm your host, Ray Quasi Nelson. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.